Welcome to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlandson and I ask my guests one simple question. Why? Focusing on the importance of why, I share with you the relatable, uplifting and inspiring conversations I have with people from all walks of life. This podcast will encourage you to focus on your why to enable and empower you to achieve the success you desire. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Today on the Focus on Why podcast, I am joined by Mike Bristow. Mike, welcome.
Hi, Amy. Great to be here.
Well, this is the second time we've recorded a podcast together, and I'm very excited to have you on Focus on Why.
Yes, thank you. Very exciting. What a great series this is. What a great podcast it is. Bring some new perspectives to the table.
Absolutely. And hopefully we're going to find some things out that people might not know about Mike Bristow.
Indeed. I'm scared.
Oh, don't be. I'm very gentle, honestly. But yes, why do you want to share your why on this podcast? Why is it important for you?
I think it's such an important question, and you know it takes sort of years and years of sort of experience and working and doing things and whatever to sort of hone in on the kinds of things that you like, that you resonate with, that you enjoy, etc. And then you can start exploring why. And that answers so much and gives so much clarity. And, you know, on a personal level, first and foremost, and then right through to, well, what is the purpose of an organization? Why is it existing? What is it doing? What is its purpose, etc.? And so, you know, it's a great question. You know, continually asking why is just, you know, my son continually asks why now. Through to, there was a guy that I remember, very, very bright guy who it was like a year out sponsorship in industry that I did. And he was going to read mechanical engineering at Cambridge. And I could just see, you know, his smarts and all he did throughout everything was just why in a very particular Middlesbrough accent, and I remember that to this day, and that was 25 years ago. This guy just kept on asking why, and it's just such a powerful question.
It's such a powerful question, and it's such a short question, and yet, I mean, you just mentioned your son asking why, and I remember my two kids being very inquisitive, and then that sort of inquisitiveness sort of slows down as you get a bit older, and as an adult, do we continue to challenge so much? Not always.
Totally agree. And, you know, I guess there comes a point where at a superficial level, you know, through experience, you sort of understand how things work. And almost like as a child, where you're trying to understand why something works. But, you know, once you know that intuitively, more so through experience, you should be asking why in a different context and a deeper sort of seated rationale that is much more about something, you know, mechanically operating, and much more about, well, what are the sort of the emotional drivers and the emotional intelligence that sits under things, and you know that drives the sort of a far richer viewpoint on life.
So, how much does why for you overlap in both your personal and your business life?
I think if you ask me sort of things about my characteristics, say 6, 7, 8 years ago, you know, some of them will be very, very similar to now. Okay, and I think about things on a very, very long-term basis, and that's that there must be some nature, there must be some nurture, and then it got nurtured massively, long-term thinking through a career in strategy consulting, management consultancy, but focusing on strategy. And that very much still underlies anything that I do and any way that I think. But I picked sort of 5 to 8 years ago as a timeline then, because that is when I had exactly 4 fewer children in this world, and that. So I've got 4 kids, and they are 4, 3, 1, and 1, and the quick amongst you will realise that we went for 3. Only had 3 children for 2 minutes whilst the other twin popped out, and irrespective of number of children, which is a lot of humans in our house, the way you think about things sort of dramatically change, and that is sort of stating something that's so damn obvious. Children change things. Yeah, well, that's great insight, Mike. But actually, your why shifts from a long-term outlook that says, well, look, I want to create the option for free time, for example. By the way, caveat, not that I'd ever exercise on that option because I'm not very good at free time, through to, well, how am I creating a legacy, and how am I ensuring that those 4 children grow up in a way that is respectful to the world, and that the world still exists. It's sort of something that's far more profound, and I just find that fascinating. And it drives everything. And the thing I'm terrible about, this long-term thinking piece, it's great for setting strategy in business. Yeah, it's great for theoretically catering for my family through the years, but it's not great for messing around in a sandpit on a day, on a minute by minute basis. I'm terrible at that. I'm terrible at the living in the moment, because I'm fascinated about the longer term, and it's actually something that I've been working quite a lot on, to try and live more in the moment whilst having the long term set out.
I think that's a struggle for all of us. I've talked to previous guests about this exact same thing of appreciating the moment, but always sort of looking forward, what's happening next, what's going to be going on in the future. And it is that sort of push-pull struggle of staying in that moment and knowing that moment's never going to happen again, especially when you've got small ones.
Yeah, there's no right answer. It's an impossible balance. And all you can do is make decisions at the time that are influenced by many factors and could be in your nature or nurture as well. Okay. And then the important thing, actually, and this is not on a regret basis, but on a reflective basis, is, well, actually, did I make the right decision there? Was I fair all round? Was I considering everyone and everything? And how can I be better at doing that in future? And both personally and professionally, I have this sort of relentless pursuit of sort of betterment, and I drive my team wild for that, and drive myself crazy as well. But anyway.
So the over-analysing of whether you use the right tool in the sandpit, does that sort of keep you awake at night?
I mean, that's exactly the kind of analysis I would do. If and it is ridiculous, but look, it's I think that's really important, thinking about how the people around you and how the world around you react, respond, are impacted by your decisions, and being aware of it, because just unfortunately so few people are really aware of that and really think about it. And that's how in my view we as a species on a huge macro level just evolve and get better and still be around in millennia to come.
So with all this in mind, and having this deliberate consciousness that drives all your decision making, what is it you're currently doing?
So now I'm currently a father of 4 and a loving husband. Now, but Yeah, so I spend a lot of my time and a hell of a lot of my time running CrowdProperty, which is the business I co-founded and I'm now CEO of. And it's a business that I have such passion for, as you know. It's my favorite topic. I bang on about it to anyone who'll listen. But it's not just banging on about it for sort of trumpeting reasons, but rather because, you know, we set out having identified real pains in a marketplace that we had personally experienced and that we knew we could solve. And the really interesting thing about this space, and so we fund property developers, small and medium-sized property developers. And, you know, that segment built a hell of a lot less last year than it did 10 years ago. And funding was one of the problems. So we set out and we said, right, we're going to build the best SME property project lender in the market. And I think we've absolutely done that now. But it's really interesting because not only does this mean we're serving a market that we know very well better, we're also delivering a better result for investors. We're also ensuring that the country builds more housing because we've never got anywhere near the level we're meant to be building for decades. And that drives spend in the economy, okay, on material, labor, services throughout the ecosystem of building and construction. And right now, you know, we're in the midst of COVID-19 lockdown, just starting to ease. The economy's in trouble, and there's a hell of a lot of enterprising small and medium-sized property developers out there, okay, that with better servicing, better product, they can build more. And that means we spend more in the economy, we get moving again, and you know, we get up to speed again. And there's quite a big picture piece in this. We're bringing forward construction, and that is what excites us as a team. On an introspective level, we're growing rapidly. On a macro level, it's meaningful, and that's really cool. But I love this point about delivering a better deal for borrowers, a better deal for lenders, a better deal for the housing market, a better deal for the economy. And that's great. That's cool.
So when you co-founded this business, what lay at the heart of it?
So it was pain. It was pain. So, you know, each of us, the co-founders, we were each investors and developers ourselves. I mean, myself on a part-time basis outside of a very busy strategy consulting career. And we, you know, I don't think there's any better starting point to a business than really experiencing pain. And when it's the greatest pain as well, which is the obstacle of finance. And what we saw in the market was, and this is, you know, remember, this is post-global financial crisis when we founded this, when small and medium-sized business lending as a whole had fallen off a cliff. And that's why businesses like Funding Circle had started, because, you know, to serve that market better. And in a lagged way, that's exactly what we saw in property development, or property projects, I should say. It's anything that adds value to property, but it's real pain, and also sufficient insights, and clarity on that pain, and clarity on the needs. Okay, to say, well, we know what we want, so why don't we build it? And that's kind of, you know, that felt like a good challenge. And there's nothing I like more than a good challenge. I mean, I'm quite competitive, and yeah, and you know, I've my competitive streak is, I mean, it's childishly competitive. Let's be clear. You know, I've been in situations that, you know, at university, for example, it was so long ago, there were these things called newspapers then. And the Times newspaper used to come through our door. And I used to compete with my one of my best friends about how many sunshine hours our local towns had, or the towns where our parents lived. You know, I've had situations where, you know, after too many on New Year's Eve, a friend of mine who's a brilliant cyclist challenged me to do l'étape, which is a stage of the Tour de France, and it was the Col de Tourmalet stage that year, which is no mean feat. And he was actually working in Chile and cycling into ski resorts in Chile, and I was sort of trying to get up to speed, pootling around the Surrey Hills. You know, that's
not quite the same altitude, no.
No, exactly. But I took that challenge on, and that's what got me on my bike. And you know, he smashed me on the time, but it wasn't the point. But there's also the sort of, you know, define winning. Okay, you've got to be moderate in your in competitiveness, and I love also looking at things in different ways, second order angles to things. And one of my best friends, he's now based out in Sydney. He's a partner at Bain & Company, a strategy firm. And we did the same course. We lived together, and we got our degree results obviously on the same day. Okay, and we both worked sort of pretty smartly. We had lots of things we were working on or doing at university, as one does, and also I was playing sport around the country and things. But I got my result, and it was a 70.3% first class degree. Okay, so scraped it. And he got his result, which was also a first class degree, and 70.1%. Okay, now I took the initial superficial argument to say, well, I won. Okay, and he said, no, you didn't, because you worked too hard. And he scraped it by 72.1. I totally agree with him. He wins. It's a great answer. So I mean, yeah. So childishly competitive, and so I love a challenge.
And why is winning important for you, Mike?
It's just. It's really interesting question, because, you know, people do wonder where I get this from, and I grew up. I've got one brother. He's 18 months younger than me, and you know, that's quite close an age gap, and we just did everything together. We played everything. You know, we played so much sport as kids and growing up. Sport is a big part of my life, as it is yours. And it was two brothers just battling at everything. Okay, and every bit of one-upmanship you could get was the name of the game. And you know, all of these things get rooted in where and how you grew up. And you know, we were very lucky. We had incredibly stable backgrounds and loving parents, and just two boys just competing in good spirits generally. I mean, there were some incidents, if I'm honest, but you know, that's where I put it down to, and you know, it's just brilliant fun as well.
And can you define winning for me?
Well, that's a really good question, because as I said, I liked my friend Phil's argument that actually spun it on his head, and he won. And there's actually the sort of, that definition is important. Look, you know, you can win a tennis match on points. Yeah, you can win, win any in a quantitative way. Okay, but that doesn't excuse, and I will draw close to one of my favourite moments of watching live sport. That was when the Australians brought out some sandpaper on the cricket pitch. Okay, and winning is within the rules, whatever those rules are. Okay, is playing well, performing well, preparing well, executing well, wrapping up well, not cheating. And I say that it's one of my favourite moments. It's actually one of the darkest moments of cricket ever. But it just as a person that loves cricket so much, the fact that it was Australians rubbing sandpaper on a ball was just hilarious. So,
and actually, if we stay with sports and use sport as a sort of a way of describing how important failing is. I've talked with other sportsmen previously, and sometimes they've learned more from failing than they have from winning. And how would you say that's the same for business?
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, the immediate analogy I have there for business, because I'm involved in a lot of startups through the venture capital fund I sit on the investment committee for, and also my own angel investing. The US attitude to failure is brilliant, absolutely brilliant in startups and startup investment. It's, what do you mean you haven't failed at something where you haven't learned? How do you know what the wrong things to do are and what the right things to do are? That attitude needs to be employed much more in the UK, and recognizing failure, mistakes as learning opportunities, not, well, you're incompetent and can't do it. And I think that's really, really important. That's one of the reasons why I love cricket as a game. It's so reflective, introspective, complex, mindful. To be a test match batsman where your ideal result is you're batting for a day, okay, and you're concentrating on every single ball, and that the capability of keeping that ball out requires that concentration, and it requires exceptional technique. Okay, now that technique you have people tinkering with all the time, or restructuring, or whatever. Even the guys that are in the England fold, they're adjusting their technique quite late on in their career when it's actually so innate to them. So, and they are doing that because they have failed. They're constantly working for improvement and betterment, and I find that learning from that really important. I mean, their focus is incredible. A point on focus, actually, to continue the sporting analogy, which is rich vein. We could go on for hours between us on sporting analogies. A phrase I use an awful lot in our business is, you don't see Tiger Woods playing much tennis. And what that really means is that we have absolute focus. Okay. And I believe that through life, and I was reflecting on this only recently, actually, life is always a set of, challenges and do more things and different things, etc., etc. But there's also a point where you say, right, I've collected a load of experience. I will still do new things, but I'm going to hone it down and I'm going to focus. Okay. So there's that sort of convergent phase. And when I left university, I looked at both banking and consulting, and I thought, well, consulting, I can go into loads of sectors and loads of companies and find out things and learn. Wonderful. So I did that for 18 years and then got a real job. But it came to the point where, right, I can now converge and focus. And what that enables one to do is to become world class at something. Okay, what does Tiger Woods do? Okay, let's not answer that question fully through the years, but the point is, yeah, he has spent decades swinging a golf club. Okay, and getting better and better and better and better. And he hasn't been playing tennis. He's left that to Roger. And, he's identified that as a path to world class, and he's focused on it, and he's delivered that. Okay. And there have been many challenges along the way for him. And I admire that. And that is the principle we use in our business, because all we focus on doing is becoming world class. And again, that's part of that long-term perspective. We're not just pumping a business up, okay, without substantiation, without foundation, without expertise, without capability, etc. We're building a 10, 20, 30-year lending business that's the best of the best. And unless you have that real long-term perspective on that focus, then you're not going to deliver the results that give you the stability, the differentiation, the sustainability, the enduring advantage that we focus on.
And interesting, just listening to you describe how you were sort of a generalist and now you've become more of a specialist. Which one do you sort of serves you better?
I think, I think that the generalist bit, the divergent bit of my career, went on for some time actually, but I was constantly learning. It was utterly fascinating. And, that was constant learning about new different things. I think the real, and I loved it, don't get me wrong. But what, I absolutely love the challenge there was almost, right, can I work out this problem quickly? Can I work out this sector, this company, these market dynamics, okay, and then define a strategy that can create advantage, that almost brings fresh perspectives to the incumbent client that will have tried most things. That was difficult, yeah. But actually, that was always for other people, clients by definition. This is bringing together all of that. The best insights from so many different places to apply into something that, I was about to use the phrase that I don't want to use, which is to apply into my baby, but it's not. It's very much not, because it's kind of like it's our baby as a team, and that adds further dimension, I think, to the satisfaction. There's the be brilliant at it, and part of that is have a brilliant team, and they are one in the same thing in many respects.
And how do you align everyone to be one and the same? How do you bring them all on board to really truly believe the concept that you want to deliver?
I think it's everything from sticking them in front of one of my recorded presentations, which isn't a personable thing at all, but it gives a view on passion, through to we're good at very good at communicating across the team, even virtually. Daily meetings on updates on what everyone's up to, what everyone's working on, what everyone's working towards. Clarity of strategy is imperative. And for example, our team is 32 now. We've got a relatively new office, not that we're in it at the moment, but it's a great office. And the one of the great things about that is that it's all one space. There's no division. There's no offices. Like, God, I don't have an office. That would be awful. It's all of us together, so that everyone is close enough to understand what's going on, what's the vibe in the business, what are people like, what are the teams like. We mix up the teams a bit. We have team strategy days. We have all of these things. We also, actually, one of the best things we do as a team is go through sort of wealth dynamics profiles, understanding different characteristics of people. Why do people have different perspectives? Appreciating that, understanding that, and the team love that because it promotes both understanding, but also promotes getting to know each other. And the sort of my view on this is that culture is everything. I personally believe in everything that is done incrementally enhances the culture, the being, the character of the business, and that influences commitment and passion to the cause, rather than sticking everyone on sales targets and just letting them rip. I don't believe in that latter, and we do not have sales targets in our business. We do not have targets on individual people in any way, shape, or form. It is a cultural alignment that I think brings out greater passion and alignment in the team.
So a word I'm going to pick up on, because you've mentioned it probably 3 or 4 times in the last sort of 5 minutes, is passion. How important is passion for you in business?
It's so important. It's so important. And look, I think passion comes from a couple of things. It's real belief that you're working on something that is game changing. Okay, that's one thing. And secondly is enjoyment and loving what you do. If I can, and it's easy for me to love what I do, because I've kind of chosen this path, I've put myself in this position, and the cause is absolutely right. The potential is huge, and I get excited and therefore passionate about it. But if we as a leadership team can empower everyone else to have a similar level of enjoyment, a belief in the cause, and therefore a passion to what we're doing, that creates just an awesome team to work with. And that goes for all the work that we're doing, the hard work, the development work, the through to the higher level brainstorming, through to team bonding. We're based in Birmingham. I desperately tried to get everyone into the Cricket 2020 at Edgbaston. We've got a really cool, diverse mix of people. Not everyone got cricket, let's put it that way. But everyone loves going out and catching up over a drink. Not everyone drinks, but it's just social time together, and all of those elements. That's what drives passion.
And you talked earlier about seeing things from second order angles. What do you mean by that?
So it's sort of it's things that are beneath the surface, things that are take a bit more sophistication to sort of think through, and they might be counterintuitive factors about a data point, a market, a competitor, a customer, whatever it is. And it takes thought and consideration to get to something that isn't the obvious. And we work hard to challenge ourselves on what is not the obvious answer here. What's the second order effect here? What's the the second level output that we're trying to drive? And thinking through like that builds so much advantage within your business, and also it makes for intrigue as well. There's so I can't. It's really annoying. I can't think of a second order or counterintuitive insight that we've seen recently, but there are so many, and they're the ones that sort of get you the aha moment of, oh, actually, that's how you think about it. That's how we approach this. This is how we can do things. Wow, that's different. Wow, we didn't expect that. If we designed it on a piece of paper, we would never have done that. But we get it. We get the insight. And actually, the crucial thing there is the customer insight. in particular. There's a great quote, okay, from a guy called Theodore Levitt, who's an economist at Harvard Business School, and is very Americanized. It's people don't want quarter-inch drills; they want quarter-inch holes. Now, that's not necessarily second order or counterintuitive, but it's more about customer needs and thinking through the depth of actually what someone wants. And if you think about the outcome, the desired outcome, you can think of many more different ways of getting there. And that's really interesting. You can set very, very different elements to your strategy because of that second order thinking.
And what do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy the creation, or do you enjoy the sort of fulfilling of putting that creation into fruition?
I think it's a really interesting question. It does come down to personality types as well. I think, the creation bit is exciting. Okay, but for me, I'm a data person, and what I want to see is results, proof, and evidence, and I want to relentlessly improve those. So I think it's the challenge of execution which is actually counter to, I spent 18 years in strategy consulting, which is not execution. It's creating the vision and direction. And maybe because it's new and exciting, I've got such clarity on the long-term vision. But now, as opposed to when I was a strategy consultant, I'm now responsible for delivering it. I'm now responsible for executing on that. Okay. And again, that's the challenge. So the challenge that I'm going to step up to. But seeing results come in are incredible. So I mean, for example, this is a reflection of me being competitive, probably again. But we every time we do a fundraise on CrowdProperty, so raising for a project, we all gather around the big screen, okay, and we have a sweepstake, not for monetary rewards. It's just for a point on the board, okay. And these points on the board are very, very important. Okay, maybe only to me. And I think I'm third in the team. I'm livid about it. But we guess how long it's going to take, and that's great. And what that almost does is really interesting, because it's sort of it almost gamifies the process of getting to the result, and the team engage in that so brilliantly. It's great fun, because we've invented such spurious rules about how people get, sort of Price is Right rules, and if you're equal, then how do you split it, and loads of complexity to this. It's ridiculous. It's the most ludicrous game on earth, but it's fun and it's great, and it's and what we're doing there is sort of observing the results. This morning was £665,000 raised in 52 seconds from 778 investors, and that's cool. And we love seeing those stats at the end of projects.
So you have involved gamification and passion into your business, because they are your core values yourself.
Yes. Childish competition, childish gamification, etc. Yes.
And how important for you to have the sort of philosophy within the business at the core for you is it to operate that way?
It's a great place to work is what we work hard to create. When I stepped in to run this business over almost 2.5 years ago now, we were a team of 5. My first appointment was a people director, because I knew we were going to grow the team massively. And that role was to build a culture, not build a team, build a culture. And I wanted one person driving that, one very, very experienced person driving that. And our people director built a brilliant team. And it's not in any way a team of people as childishly competitive as Mike. It's a really diverse team in every way, and and that's one reason I couldn't get the Latvian to understand cricket. It's and for good reason. Yeah, cricket's one of those games where you've got to have grown up with it to really love it.
Well, actually, I was thinking about that. If you'd taken him perhaps to a village game or a sort of a local cricket game where you've got a 12-year-old playing in the same team as a 60-year-old, and actually that happened last year. My son was bowling open bowler from one end, age 14, and at the other end, you had the other opening bowler was age 60, 63, I think he is. And for me, that's the epiphany of cricket. That's what's so beautiful about cricket, is that you can have a team of people across all ages and from all walks of life come together and play as one. And yes, I mean, you've got the international cricket, that's a whole different level, but if you see that as a concept, I think that really is the beauty. And that's where, I mean, I was spent most of my childhood up in Edgbaston, as you know, and I loved every second of it, but I also spent the weekends watching my dad play village cricket, and village being the right word, it was pretty dire but we loved it.
And a true cricket fan can never drive past a village green with a game on and not watch a few balls.
Well, I hope you haven't missed tea for a start. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But that's really interesting. So a few years ago now, scarily long ago, actually, it was 07, 08. I did my MBA at London Business School, which is a great school and hugely international. Amongst a class of 75, we had 25 different nationalities, and it was awesome. And in my group, there was an Aussie, a Safa, a Nigerian, an Indian, and a Russian. Okay, brilliant. Now you'll know that there's quite a heavy weighting of cricket-loving nationalities in there. So what we did is we thought we've got to get the Russian engaged in cricket. Okay, how do we do that? So we wandered up the road to Lord's one day. We did the disgraceful thing of bunking off lectures, which is ridiculous when you're at business school. And it was the Village Cup final on at Lord's. Okay, and it was incredible because the ground wasn't that busy. Okay, we went and sat in the Compton stand. It's a place I always love to sit at Lord's, and basically there clearly been busloads of people from the two villages that have been bussed in. Okay, so of the few crowds, it was loud and raucous. Okay, the bars were open, so we just kept on buying Sasha vodka. Okay, and that's what it's about. It's about enjoying being around some friends, watching some passion on the pitch, okay, having a drink, and that's what watching cricket is about. But the best thing about that, and what I remember this day vividly, both because of Sasha's introduction to cricket, but also the fact it was the Village Cup final, okay, and there's this guy who scored 100, okay, and scoring 100 at Lord's is like everyone's absolute dream globally who loves cricket. And every one of the opposition went up and shook his hand. Okay, and that is so cool. Gracious. You want to win. You want to win at all costs, or not at all costs.
Not with sandpaper.
No sandpaper. Yeah. So no sandpaper, but it was competitive, but so respectful. It was such an amazing moment. It's a bit like that moment when Freddie Flintoff sort of kneels down and shakes Brett Lee by the hand after Edgbaston 2005. It was every one of the opposition shaking this guy's hands. You've just scored a ton at Lord's, and it's incredible. And I just love that view, that graciousness of competition as well.
Oh, I mean, we could talk all day about cricket. I'm actually an Oscar winner. I'm an Outstanding Service to Cricket Award winner. I got awarded in 2012. Love cricket. It's my whole life. I spend a lot of time up the cricket ground. Not at the moment, unfortunately, but yeah, we'll get back there again, I'm sure. But yeah, cricket and rugby, they're my biggest things. So.
Yeah, and when you're next to Edgbaston, you have to let me know. I mean, we're literally around the corner.
100%. My mum lives in Stratford-upon-Avon, so I'll whisk her along with me. She'll love that. So we're coming up to the end of our time together, and I'm just so grateful for your sharing of your why, Mike. It's been really lovely. How can people get in touch with you?
So yeah, you can find out about CrowdProperty at crowdproperty.com. We've got lots of information on there, both for investing and for borrowing through the business. We like to write a lot and share a lot. And so blog.crowdproperty.com, there's a really cool series of 40 articles we wrote all about alternative finance, peer-to-peer lending, crowdfunding, property, and CrowdProperty. So that's a really good way of getting familiar with what it's all about, and you can sort of get a feel for how we think and write. And follow us on social media, especially on LinkedIn, and do connect with me on LinkedIn. Very keen to sort of continue sharing our thoughts and our passions.
Absolutely. And everybody will find all of these links in the show notes. So no problem about losing those, no problem at all. So one final message. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. It's been, as always, an absolute pleasure spending time with you and hearing all of your wonderful stories and probably some things that people won't have heard. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that too. I would love you to share just one final message for the audience.
I think just whatever you're doing, okay, make sure it's right for you, because that's where you can get your passion from, the energy to give you passion. Enjoy it, do it with passion, do it with, not necessarily as competitively as I do everything, but with grace as well. And, and I think if everyone did that, the world would be a more energetic, passionate and friendly place to live.
Thank you for listening to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlandson, and if you've enjoyed this episode, please leave me a 5-star iTunes review. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, and become a member of the inspiring, uplifting, and positive Focus on Why Facebook group. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.